like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one, only one. I was an ordinary boy until I broke the rules. My life destroyed, life destroyed. Until I walk awake, scream my mind, I shout, the ground shakes. How much can I take? My mind will break. Will it break? Can I take? Can I be your superhero?
I guess y'all can answer that for me. Can I be your superhero? Is there anybody in here that needs a superhero? I guess I could be your superhero if you wanted me to. Anybody need a superhero? Anyways, I was on a little while ago and I thought that I'd come back on because I took some medication and my throat's feeling a little better. And, I wanted to continue reading this Heroin Diaries because it's different. It's more interesting to me than that other that I did earlier. I was merely just trying to test my voice out. And I hope that y'all enjoyed that. But, oh, you need a superhero? I have a very big cape. So I can be a lot of people's superhero, you know. So I hope that y'all enjoyed the Matthew Perry reading last night. I enjoy doing these readings because they articulate so much emotion in the writing, and you know I'm going to say it straight up because this is my belief system here. Um, many people. I'm not going to even rant and rave about it, but I'm going to just say it one time that when it comes to certain cases and certain families and true crime stuff, I don't know about you, but it kind of gets old listening to other creators. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful, but doesn't it sound like people are just saying the same thing or they get with other people and they talk about the same thing? I believe so. That's why I like to change it up on my channel because you can only hear the same thing so many times. And after a while, it just becomes monotonous and it becomes repetitive and it becomes like a broken record. I'm sorry, but the more that you say something doesn't make it any more true than the first time you said it if it's not true. If it's merely your opinion, then it's never going to change perception of other people. It's not, you know. So that's all I really wanted to say about that. Um, but let's get on with the Heroin Diaries, okay? This is introduction 2. It says I first met Nikki Sixx on Valentine's Day, 1986. Motley Crue flew into London on their Theatre of Pain tour. I was writing for a now defunct British music magazine melody maker, and we exchanged a few sweet nothings in the interview. Nikki wasn't making too much sense. I went away thinking, this guy's wasted. By the end of the night, he had OD'd and been dumped in a rubbish bin, and that was when he really started going downhill. Nearly 20 years later, Nikki asked me to work with him on the Heroin Diaries, and I got greater insight into the abjectness mess that he called his life back then. When Nikki first showed me his remaining journal scribblings and scraps of paper from back then, I was horrified and could not believe he is still alive. Some pages of Nikki's diary were intact, many were not. But by scouring his memory and researching old notes and documents, we were able to fill in the black holes and piece together the story of a man who, at the beating heart of an over the top rock band, was profoundly falling apart at the seams. Nikki asked me to get the other side of the horror story, so I sought out the people whose lives he was terrorizing back then, the motley band members who tolerated and or feared him, the lovers who were sucked into his daily insanity, the estranged mother who longed to be close to him. Unsurprisingly, they had some pretty shitty things to say about the out of control junkie they knew back then. But but Nikki wanted all the insults and the atrocities itemized in this book, I can think of no other rock star of this stature who would be so honest or courageous. The Heroin Diaries is not an easy reading. It is a book that you will never forget. December 25th, 1986. Van Nuys, 7:30 p.m. Merry Christmas. Well, that's what people say at Christmas, right? Except normally they have somebody to say it to. They have their friends and family all around them. They haven't been crouched naked under a Christmas tree with a needle in their arm like an insane person in a mansion in Van Nuys. They're not out of their minds and writing in a diary, and they're not watching their holiday spirit coagulating in a spoon. I didn't speak to a single person today. I thought of calling Bob Timmons, but why should I ruin his Christmas? I guess I've decided to start another diary this time for a few different reasons. I have no friends left, so I can read back and remember what I did the day before. So if I die, at least I'll leave a paper trail of my life. Nice little suicide note. Merry Christmas. It's just you and me, diary. Welcome to my life. Ugh, ew. Bob Timmons. By Christmas 1986, Nikki had been addicted to heroin and cocaine for at least a year, possibly longer. As a drug counselor, I first met Nikki when Motley Crue's manager, Doc McGee, called me in to work with the band's singer, Vince Neil. Nikki was initially very hostile to me. He tried to get me barred from going backstage or being around them. Nikki and I slowly formed a relationship, and early in 1986, he asked me for help with his own addictions. I advised him to go into rehab center, but he refused and said he didn't need to. He was very stubborn on that issue. Over the years, I've worked with platinum selling artists from the Rolling Stones to the Red Hot Chili Peppers and all points in between. And let me make one thing clear from the start. Motley Crue, more than anybody, wrote the book for decadence and partying. In that area, they were the most extreme people I had ever met, and Nikki was the most extreme of all. For many years, Nikki had one motto: I'm going to do exactly what I want to do and fuck everybody else. December 26, 1986. Van Nuys, 2:10 a.m. Jason came over again today. I was touched. So there is a Santa Claus after all. He came mooching in with his greasy James Dean hair and his junky eyes that are sunk so deep in his elongated face that he looks like he's wearing makeup. And he stood by the tree and asked me how my Christmas had been, like he cares, like he doesn't know already that it was exactly the same as his. Sometimes Jason pisses me off when he tries to make small talk. He asked me how much gear I wanted, and I asked how much have he got. And he gave me this contemptuous, sneering look, and he said, "That must be nice." His Betty Page wannabe goth girlfriend, Anastasia, isn't much better. Oh, she's nice enough, but I know on the inside, I'm just her meal ticket to an easier, softer life. I know she tells Jason to jump when I call because she, more than he, wants the money. Not just for the junk. They make enough off me to maintain their cheap little habits, but she likes to decorate their little one room rat nest with extra money they have left over. That's the real reason she demands he comes at my beck and call. She likes that extra cash for thrift shops and secondhand stores. I see her as a sort of Susie Homemaker from hell, but it's all just a fantasy. She's stuck with the habit, too. Nikki, my dealer Jason, and I had a real love hate relationship. I loved I loved him because I could pick up the phone and he'd be over in 20 minutes with everything I needed. I hated him because it was killing me. He loved me because I gave him hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars on a daily basis. He hated me because I was a spoiled millionaire rock star who could have anything I wanted whenever I wanted it, and usually did. I used to ride a Honda Shadow motorcycle around the valleys with my shirt off, totally out of my mind. One time Jason started talking about Harleys and how much he loved them. Tommy had one, so the next day I just went out and bought one and rode it to Jason's house to score. He was furious. It was his dream bike. He'd shown me a picture of it and I'd bought it. He thought I was such a spoiled brat. Jason was so fucked on heroin as me. He was a tall, skinny guy who in another life could have been a model or something, but he really just came off looking like a corpse. That was the real reason he hated me. We were both living for drugs, but I could afford as many as I wanted. December 27th, 1986. Van Nuys, 4:15 a.m. The best part of Freebase is before the first hit. I love that moment, right before I put the glass pipe to my lips. That moment when everything is saying, and the craving, the salivating, the excitement, all the feel fresh and innocent. It's like foreplay, the ache that always better than the orgasm. Yeah, as soon as I hit the pipe, within 30 seconds, all hell breaks loose in my brain. And I keep on doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, and I can't stop. Every day that I sit here and I write, it's always the same. So why? Why do I do this? I hate it. I hate it so much, but I love it even more. The worst part of the freebase is running out, but I have a new Jones speedballs of any kind. The junk just isn't enough anymore. I feel like I'm only halfway there. Tommy Lee. Back around girls, girls, girls. We were starting to make shitloads of money. With money came success, power, overindulgence, and experimentation. Sixx and I, in particular, took a lot of narcotics, and he would always want to push things. Hey, how about taking these two drugs together? How about heroin and cocaine at the same time? That period led us to a really dark fucking place. We all went to a place at various times, but Nikki seemed to like it there more than any of us. December 28th, 1986. Van Nuys, 9:40 p.m. After I binged last night, or was it tonight? I was convinced yet again that there were people coming to get me. It was more than just shadows and voices, more than just fantasies. It was real, and I was scared to my core. My bones were shaking, my heart was pounding, and I thought I was going to explode. I'm glad I have you to talk to write this down. I tried to keep it all together, but then I gave in to the madness and became one with my insanity. I always end up in the closet in my bedroom. Let me tell you about that place, my closet. It's more than a closet, it's a haven for me. It's where I keep my dope and where I keep my gun. I know when I'm in there, I'm safe, at least until I get too high. I can't be out in the house. There are too many windows, and I know I'm being watched. Right now, it seems impossible that cops are peering in from the trees outside, or people are looking at me through the peephole at the front door. But when the drug kick in, I can't control my mind. Today, last night, feels like a lifetime ago. But the sick thing is, I could do it all again tonight. Nikki, this was the crazy routine I had at the time. I would start out freebasing or mainlining anywhere in the house, the front room, the kitchen, the bathroom. But as soon as the coke induced psychosis kicked in, as soon as the insanity began, I would make a beeline for my bedroom closet. That was my refuge. I would huddle in there, surrounded by my drug paraphernalia and guns, convinced that people were in the house trying to get me, or a SWAT team was outside preparing to bust me. I'd be too scared to move until I came down. The only way to bring myself down quicker was heroin. Heroin would make the madness go away. It was the easy solution. It seemed to make sense at the time. December 29th, 1986. Van Nuys, 4:30 p.m. I've been thinking about last Christmas Eve when I picked up that girl in a strip club, brought her back here on my bike, took her home the next day, then had Christmas dinner all by myself at McDonald's. I haven't made much progress, I see. Today I'm listening to Exile on Main Street, reading, laying around, tanning in the backyard naked. Today I feel like my old self. Sometimes I feel like I have two personalities. One is Nikki, one is Sicky. Ross Heflin. As a photographer, I've shot Molly Crew many times over the years for magazines and got particularly close to Nikki. I remember the first time I ever met him in LA. We got on pretty well and decided to go for a drink that night. We sat talking in a booth. Vince Neil was in another booth with a girl arguing, and Vince suddenly stood up and punched her in the face. I asked Nikki, should we sort it out? And Nikki just laughed and said, let them sort it out themselves. January 1st, 1990 or 1987. Van Nuys, 6 a.m. Let me take a minute to say hello to people in the chat. Heather Fitzgerald, how are you? Aquarius. Randy Patter, how's it going? PKC, thank y'all so much for being here tonight and listening to me read. I hope y'all are enjoying this book. Let me start again. January 1st. He says Firth. January 1st, 1987. Van Nuys, 6 a.m. Vanities showed up yesterday with a mountain of coke. It kind of altered the day. I'd been doing good until that point. I'd got a good night's sleep for the first time in days. I even managed to take a shower and pick up my guitar. But since this is a new diary, let me tell you about Vanity. She used to be a backup singer with Prince, or so she says. We meet for all the wrong reasons and have only one real thing in common: drugs. I mean, she's a sweet girl as much as I'm a sweet guy. She has flowing brown hair and chocolate brown eyes and has an ability to look very pretty. But usually, like me, looks like hell. As they say, misfits attract misfits. Truer words cannot be said. Motley is back in the studio next week, and I told the guys I had some new songs. The truth is, I haven't written much of anything. I just can't seem to focus on anything these days, except the usual. So we did a few lines while Vanity cooked up the bass. She was talking about us going out tonight for New Year's Eve, but both of us knew that we were going nowhere. The more she talked, the more I could do was hear my head talking. The craving, a wet palate, for a hit on that glass pipe. It was beautiful and it was ugly, all at the same time. Then everything went wrong, just like it always does. The bass fucked up Vanity's head and she started speaking in riddles, ranting on about Jesus and spirituality like she was still with fucking Prince or something. She was making no sense and I couldn't take it. So I started yelling at her to go fuck herself and fuck Jesus and get the fuck out of my house. Then she was gone, and I was back in my closet with my grandfather's gun pointed at the door, needles and dirty spoons on the floor, terrified because people had slid under my front door like vapor or were in the house and were coming to get me. I fucking hate that shit. I'm okay now, but nobody would believe what happened inside my head. It's haunted. Now that I've come down, it seems like a sick play I saw in a theater. 30 minutes ago, I could have killed somebody, or better, myself. Now I'm okay. I need a padded cell, I'm telling you. Oh, yeah, Happy New Year. 11:30 a.m. Here comes the new year, same as the old year. Pete said I really must open these Christmas presents soon. Nikki, Vanity came and went during different periods of my addiction. She was a wild black chick who had sung with Prince. She'd also been his lover for a while. At the time, I thought of Vanity as a disposable human being, like a used needle. Once its purpose was fulfilled, it was ready for the trash, only to be dug up if you were really desperate. Been there, my guy. Maybe the manner in which I'd met Vanity should have told me this was to be no normal relationship. Back in '86, I used to hang out with a guy named Pete. In fact, he was semi living in my house. Pete was a 6'6" cross between Keith Richards and Herman Munster and looked like the coolest rock star around, except that he couldn't play shit. We used to sit in my house watching TV and snorting coke and pointing out girls that we'd like to fuck. Then I'd phone the Motley office and they'd get us the girls' numbers so we could call them. It was a sick little game we played, never really realizing we were playing with people's lives. We saw Vanity on MTV, and when Pete said, "Dude, that's Prince's old girl," I said, "Excellent. He's got a tiny dick." The office rang Vanity and arranged for us to meet. She opened the door naked with her eyes going around in her head. Somehow, I had a feeling that we might just hit it off. We became drug buddies. Sometimes you could even just about call us boyfriend and girlfriend. Vanity also taught me how to really freebase. The first time I based was with Tommy when Motley just started, and only a few times after that. So up until then, I'd been mostly snorting or injecting. But as soon as she showed me the real ins and outs of cooking up a good rock, it was love. Not her, the drug. Evangelist Denise Matthews, Webster Dictionary assassinates the word vanity, describing its meaning as worthless. What a bold mistake that was. God forgave me for that ugly name. You might say I was a collector. I collected a long list of vile addiction throughout my journey of paranoia, boldly going where most have not gone before, hiding behind a faith to launch 1,000 nothings. Most don't call me Vanity any longer. My friends call me Denise. The saints call me Evangelist. It doesn't really matter. I don't answer to vanity. I would much rather be a fish stuck in a pond with a starving shark than to take on such a foul name of nothingness. I'm this new creature in Christ, and I'm preserved to keep changing for the better. January 3rd, 1987. Van Nuys, 5:20 p.m. Dear Diary, here's a typical holiday day in my rock star paradise. Wake up around noon if I've been to bed. See if I'm alone, if I'm with somebody else. Try to remember what her name is, but that hasn't been happening too much lately. Girls have kind of stopped coming around. Crawl out of bed, feel hungover or dope sick, wipe last night out of my eyes, wonder if I need to shower, decide that I don't. It'll only get dirty again. Oh, oh my gosh. Hey, Jeff H., thank you for being here, buddy. On a good day, pick up my guitar. On a bad day, flop in front of MTV. Most days do both. Do a little bump to wake me up. Some people use coffee for that. We all have our little rituals. Then it starts. The itch starts. The Coke makes me edgy, so I have a little sniff of my breakfast blend and a Valium or two to calm me down. But I need Jason. If his answering machine is on, I sit here twitching until he phones back. When the phone rings, if it's Jason, it's the best thing in the world. If it's not, I want the person at the other end to die. Sometimes I wonder if they know that I'm strung out and they're calling just to torment me. And when Jason doesn't call at all, that's when the fucking Joneses start. Being dope sick is the worst feeling in the world. I hope it never happened to you. Unless you have it coming, I could name a few. When you're junk sick, you'll do just about anything for a fix. It's all you think about. It haunts you. Eventually, I go to my cot and squeeze some lemon juice on them and try and wring out a few cc's. I've done it all. Once, I even shot up some weird stuff I found stuck in the bushes outside a drug dealer's house. Then I found out it wasn't some lucky find on my part. It was fucking crystallized brown sugar. Man, I thought I'd hit the mother lode when I found that baggie. But when Jason finally shows up, he makes everything better. It's like he got the power to heal, and that prick shows his power every chance he gets. Vince Neil, you know the problem with Nikki Sixx? He can't do nothing, just a little bit. He can't do a little bit of coke. He's got to do all the coke. He can't take a little bit of heroin. He's got to take all the heroin. He can't just have one sip of wine. He's got to drink the bar out. There's no middle speed for that dude. It's 0 to 10. January 4th, 1987. Van Nuys, midnight. Bob Michaels came over tonight. We drank a few beers, had a couple lines. Bob is a good guy. He gets fucked up with me, and he's not like me. He's normal. Come on. Bob Michaels. Nikki Sixx and I have been friends ever since the day in 1983 that he moved in next door to me. I remember seeing this real tall guy in 6-inch heels with lots of black hair and makeup and thinking, who the fuck is that? But we became friends real quick. That building was party central. I think everyone who lived there was involved in either supplying or consuming narcotics. Robin Crosby from Rat lived downstairs from Nikki, and Tommy was around all the time. I stayed friends with Nikki when he moved into his next house on Valley Vista Boulevard in Van Nuys, but by then he was struggling with all kinds of addiction, heroin, alcoholism. Nikki would put anything into his arm that he could, heroin, coke, and loads of other things that should never be put into an arm. Personally, I pinpoint his problems from Vince Neil going to jail in 1985 that made Nikki think for the first time what would happen if the band stopped. Maybe it scared him because that's when his drug habit started to get out of control. January 5th, 1987, Van Nuys, 9:30 p.m. Listening to the Dolls and the Stooges. Wow, amazing. Then mix in some John Lee Hooker or Buddy Miles. Then the first Aerosmith album. I love music. This is life. Like Burroughs or Kerouac or Ginsberg, the flames who burn bright. Other people hide away from life. People like me or Keith Richards or Johnny Thunders. We live it. We're right here, feeling everything in the moment. The only way to be truly alive is to confront your mortality. What do y'all think so much? I mean, what do y'all think so far? Are y'all enjoying this? He was talking about Prince having a small wanger. Nikki, I really used to think this way. Keith and Johnny lived like this, so why shouldn't I? I know it looked crazy now, but at the time it seemed the only way to live. I was just another wasted, confused, unraveling millionaire rock star. Mick Mars. Nikki was always trying to rebel. He had enough money to act like Sid Vicious, and he always loved him, so that's exactly what he did. He role played the part of Sid. Of course, it never seemed to occur to him that Sid ended up killing himself. Did Nikki take so many drugs back then because he was unhappy? Well, I'm pretty unhappy now, and I'm not taking them. January 6th, 1987, Van Nuys, 11:30 p.m. There's this funny thing about heroin. The first time you do it, you throw up, you feel sick, and you can't move. You lay on your back and your head spins and your body flips. You say to yourself, this is the stupidest drug ever. Only the dumb of the dumb would ever do it again. So why did I do it again? Because my heroes did it. Because I idolized my heroes. Because they didn't care. And I really don't care about anything. Heroin, once it became my friend, became like a warm blanket on a cold night. Now I can't imagine living without it. I can't imagine not having it. I don't get sick from it now. I get sick if I don't do it. Isn't it funny how that works? Nikki, cocaine made me high until I went too far and became wild and psychotic. Heroin balanced that out and made me calm. I would self medicate in my house for days with the obsessive addiction of a research scientist. Maybe I saw it as a yin and yang thing. It all made sense in my junkie wonderland. Tommy Lee. The first time I took heroin was at Nikki's place at Valley Vista Boulevard. He was taking it, and I thought, fuck, I want to try that shit. I shot up on his couch, pulled the needle out, and immediately had the biggest rush on the planet. I was just laying there. Then within a minute, I had to rush to his bathroom, spraying throw up through my fingers. Then I came out really high, walked back to his couch, and just passed out. Later, I thought, I'm not sure that I like this. The needle hurt on the way in. There was a very short, really high point. Then I threw up and passed out. What the fuck is this? I asked Nikki, are you sure about this shit? But unlike me, Sixx seemed to be pretty fucking sure. January 8th, 1987, Van Nuys, 3:25 a.m. Sometimes, if I didn't know better, I'd think that my dealer is trying to kill me. Little mean faces, here I sit in the dark, letting my insanity run away. Little mean faces stare back at me, chanting rhythms of my fate. I know they're not real, and I'm sure I'm really quite sane. Because if I was crazy, I would have given them all little names. 10 a.m. Pete won't admit it, but he's got a habit too. Noon, to do list. Buy guitar strings, buy food, call management back, return decorator's call, get more locks for the doors, replace busted back window. Nikki, my house was a site of constant misadventure. All sorts of mayhem would unfold. One day I would get a stripper's pole put in my bedroom because I thought it was classy. A few days later I would tear it down because I decided it was crass. There were constant spontaneous decor rethinks. It was very confusing even for such a confused time. It tends to be that way when you're going insane. January 9th, 1987. Van Noyes, midnight. I love this house. The times I don't hate it. It's funny how I never even saw the place before. I bought it. Nicole closed the place for me, then we moved in, made it our heroin den, and hardly left for months. Now Nicole had moved out and I've got vanity. I've gone from a junkie to a crackhead. Is that progress? But I love prowling around this house from room to room. I love that it's so dark, a house that can keep secrets. I don't want to ever leave here, but I have to, because rehearsals start next week. Nikki, the house was on Valley Vista Boulevard in Van Nuys, LA. My former girlfriend Nicole had chosen it for me. I was touring theater paying with Motley, and she would view properties in LA, video them, and bring the videos out on the road to show me. It took me about a minute to say yes. What was the big deal? I had so much money then I could have bought anywhere. I hired an interior decorator who would turn up for meetings with her fabrics and samples and find me strung out on my head. She'd step over the needles and the empty Coke bindles and the comatose naked girls on my 25,000 Persian rugs with cigarette burns on them, and she'd never even bat an eyelid. I must hand it to her. She was very professional. My house was full of red velvet hangings, Gothic furniture, antiques, and gargoyles that loomed at you out of the darkness. It was a house to lose yourself in and to lose your mind in. January 10th, 1987. Van Nuys, 9:40 p.m. Today I made myself pick up my guitar, knowing that I have to write more songs for this next album. I managed to string it, but the writing just wasn't happening. That scares me because music is all I have to live for. Tommy and Vince and even Mick have their families to go home to at the end of the day. Music has always been my family, and now I'm losing that too. Every corner of my mind is filled with spider webs and fear. January 11th, 1987. Van Nuys, 11 p.m. Me and Pete spent the day shooting the breeze. Pete talks like he has loads of things going on, but he never really gets his shit together. He still owes me the $9,000 bail I posted for him after he got busted on probation with track marks on his arm. He says I'll get it back one day. Whatever. I've realized something about Pete. His hair always looks so cool, with all weird pieces and extensions woven into it, but I've never seen him without a hat or without a towel over his head when he gets out of the shower. It's too perfect. Is it even his own hair? I think it's a fucking wig. Nikki, I never did get my money back from Pete. After he vanished, I heard many stories of his adventures from people over the years. The last one I heard was that he'd been sent to jail after trying to rob a bank on a bicycle. I have no idea if it's true, but it would be a very Pete thing to do. January 12th, 1987. Fan noise, 4 p.m. I've enrolled in a methadone program and I think it's going to go well. Davy told me he kicked a bad Persian habit this way, so I'm hopeful. So every morning at 9, I'm down there, the rock star junkie in his blacked out Corvette, lining up in my ski cap and sunglasses with all the others for the daily dose. I'm going to kick this shit, I know I am. Just has to work. I don't know how I'm going to tour like this if it doesn't. I can do it, as long as I don't chip too much. Nikki. Most methadone programs last 30 days and are intended to wean addicts off heroin while keeping them away from dirty needles, HIV dealers, and the general paraphernalia of the drug world. I used to get my methadone dose, then call on Jason for dope. Did it work? Also strung out that I think I may have simply added methadone to my already impressive list of existing addictions. Davy, whose real name cannot be disclosed, is one of the biggest rock stars in the world. I can't tell you his name, but I'm sure loved his music growing up. January 13th, 1987. Fan noise, 9 p.m. Today I phoned my sister. I have no idea why. We have nothing to say to each other. CC Comer, my brother Nikki, is 7 years older than me, and he's imprinted on my heart like my faith, which is strange but true because he hasn't always deserved to be. I've never understood it, but the feeling has never left me. But there have been plenty of times I've despised him too. When we were kids, we would play together in El Paso. We made mudslides, he ripped his foot open, caught horny toads and snakes, and shot Roman candles at each other on July 4th inside a cement mixer. One time, Grandpa put a huge cactus thorn from his kneecap. Another time, Nicky sliced his finger on the pig pen so bad that it's hardly attached. It was just wobbling and shooting torrential downpours of blood. He even got struck by lightning in our doorway one day. Nicky became my hero when he saved me from the big rattlesnake. I thought I could pet it. But he ran and picked me up as it was about to strike. He used to keep snakes as pets. Once one of them killed and ate my quarter turtle. I wanted to kill that snake. Nicky still owes me for that. Then Mom and I moved to Washington and Nicky went to live with our grandparents. I think in Mom's mind it was only ever temporary and Nicky would come to join us when the dust had settled, but he never did come to stay with us. I think maybe Nicky figured Mom loved me more than him, but it wasn't that. I was just younger and in her possession, and Mom tried to always have a room for Nicky in whatever house we lived in. After Nicky got famous, we really drifted apart. He'd never contact us, apart from occasionally when he was coming to town. And the times that I did hear from him, he was such an ass. He'd ask me how things were, then when I'd tell him, he would cut the conversation short or change the subject. He was rude, full of himself. He just crushed me on so many times. He was an asshole. So, did y'all know any of this stuff about Nikki Sixx? Has anybody ever read this? January 14th, 1987. Van Noise, 11:30 a.m. Last night after Jason left, with madness. I'm not having him bring smack very often, but my coke intake is up 1,000%. I was creeping around the house, listening to the voices, when I noticed all the platinum discs hanging on the walls, and suddenly I hated them. Why were they there? Motley is about music and passion, not awards from a dumb industry that hates us and skims millions of dollars off of us. So I went from room to room, wrenching the disc off the walls and dumping them in the garbage. Then I suddenly felt stupid. We earned those discs. We should be proud of them. So I put them all on the floor below where they used to hang. We're back in the studio tomorrow. Bob Michaels. Nikki is a very driven individual. Sometimes he'd put drugs on the back burner for a while for cars or 17-foot trucks, but it got to the point where nothing else mattered but getting high. He went from being fun to never being happy unless he was totally wasted. He used to check his mailbox 7 times a day, but it wasn't the mail he was after. It was the drug that the dealers used to leave there for him. He'd go to the mailbox, into the bathroom, then come out a more comfortable person. Insanity runs deep in the company that I keep. Insanity runs deep in everyone but me. My padded walls, you call my eyes. My dreams that you call my lies. Around my wrist, my shackles lay, razor blades and cocaine to pass the time away. January 15th, 1987, Van Nuys, 8:30 p.m. Today we were back in the studio writing for the next album. I rode in on my Harley feeling all jittery and decided to stop for a small fix. Went in Denny's on Gower in Sunset, always the classy guy. I didn't have a spoon, so I bought a bottle of Pepsi, threw the bottle away, kept the cap, and went into the bathroom to shoot up. The shitter was disgusting, black rings and shit stains around the bowl, and the unclever graffiti all over the walls. I sat on my motorcycle helmet on the floor and filled the cap with water from the toilet. I don't know why I didn't fill it from the sink like any other sane person would. I put the bottle cap on the toilet seat in the piss and the stains and poured Coke in it. I drew it up in a syringe, washed it out in the shit water, put a little China white on the cap and cooked it, burning my fingers. I had no cottons, so I just drew it up and shot up. The studio was fine after that. I just felt dead. Doug Thaler. I co-managed Motley Crue together with Doc McGee for many years, and when I first started, Nikki was a pain in the ass. He just had a knee-jerk reaction against us as authority figures and never understood we were trying to help him. I used to go to band meetings with my stomach tied in knots. One day, I just snapped and said to him, "You can't be an asshole all your life." I offered that in the future I'd present ideas and strategies to him before the rest of the band, and he liked that. After that, we got along a lot better. I'd like to think he saw me as some sort of elder brother or even a mentor. One side effect of Nicky's control freak nature was that whenever Motley was in the studio, he wanted to be there every single minute of the night and day. On Girls, 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 he was a lot more removed from the process. He often wasn't there at all, and when he did come in, he was in no shape to do anything. He would just be making no sense. That's when I started to realize how ill he was. January 16th, 1987. Van Nuys, 10:10 p.m. Last night was a bad one. When I rode into the studio this afternoon, I knew I was still high, and the others seemed shocked at the state I was in. I started showing them a new song, but Tommy interrupted and asked me, "Dude, what's on your head?" He'd seen my track marks, so I told him that I'd met a chick a few days ago and pulled an all-nighter, done a little shooting up, coke. Tommy just looked at me as if to say, "That was no party." He could see my hands were one big scab. I'm looking at them now as I write. All my veins have collapsed. But Tommy never said anything. Nobody ever does. The guys aren't exactly angels themselves, so it would just be like the pot calling the kettle black. Motley doesn't like confrontation, and they don't like to cross me, so I taught them the new song and everything was okay. Tommy Lee. Nikki was turning up to the studio for the Girls, Girls, Girls session. in a bit of a fucking mess. I guess we're all a bit of a mess, but Nikki definitely went that one step further than the rest of us. He'd show up really late. He and I would chase the dragon in the bathroom. Then we'd go back into the studio to try to work. I think it's fair to say our focus was on the drugs and not on the music. Vince Neil, I knew Nikki had a drug problem right back when we were doing Shout at the Devil. We all had drug problems at our own level, but Nikki's just seemed more amplified than anybody else's. But he never got into trouble for it. If anything happened, it was just taken care of right away. Our management always just soothed everything over because Nikki was writing songs and making money for everybody. Why would they want to throw a stone in the wheel and stop the money machine from turning? Tom Lucy, I was a Nikki's bass technician for many years, including during the recording of Girls, Girls, Girls album. I first started working for him when they made Too Fast for Love, and remember that on my first day, Nikki came into the studio with a black eye, having spent the night in a police cell. That pretty much set the tone for what was to follow. January 17th, 1987. Van Noise, midnight. Where are we at? How many people are in here? 8? Today I went into the studio and everyone was staring at me and asking what happened to me yesterday. Apparently I just vanished. Went to the bathroom and never came back. Between me and you, I guess I was a bit of a blackout. So I started teaching them a new song. I gave Vince the lyrics and showed Mick the guitar riff. They said nothing and started playing. They were good. They got it right away. Then halfway through the song, I realized they knew it already. I'd already shown them the song yesterday. I didn't say anything. Of course, neither did they. What could they say? It was a very uncomfortable feeling. I think we all realized right there that this isn't what it used to be. The drugs are running the show, and we're all scared to death. I'm sure they called Doug and Doc after I left. I expect a call any day. They must know I am going insane. Mick Mars, when we were making Girls, 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 Nicky would ride down to the studio on his motorcycle, come in, look at the place, say, okay, we're done. And then everybody would go home. That was pretty much the way it was. I don't think he even knew what he was doing. It was pretty horrible. The only good thing from my point of view was that it made him much less of a control freak than usual. Doc McGee. As a manager, I used to be very close to Nicky, but while Motley was doing Girls, 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 he was just out there. We saw he had a problem, and I realized it was coming apart, unraveling, but it was a crazy period. We didn't talk as much as before because he was just never there. When you're a heroin addict, you just gravitate towards the few people that you do the drug with. Everybody else just stays away. I knew what the problem was, and I hoped it was just something that Nicky was going through. But heroin isn't something that you just go through. It's the worst drug in the world. January 18th, 1987. Van Noise, 11:40 p.m. I don't know if this album we're making is any good. I don't know if I even like it. And if I don't like it, who will? I have to pull it together. I don't know how to stop. I don't want to go to rehab again, but I'm at a loss for how to get off. And that's where we'll stop for tonight. You're lurking. What's up? Lurkers are pretty cool, especially when they come in and say hello. It always makes for a good time. Always makes for a good time. Who are you talking about as a switch hitter? Nikki Sixx or Prince? Yeah, what a life. Is the screen clear? Maybe my eyes are just blurry. I don't know what. It looks blurry to me. So, the life of a drug addict, man, it's just like really intense. It's really intense. I guess I need to keep up with the Joneses and like get a fireplace backdrop in the background. Maybe get a TV back there and like have a fireplace um burning in the background. Or I could actually get a real fireplace. Well, my background is blurred, so that might make me a little blurry. Let me change that. I like Dago's background. It's pretty cool. He has a cool house. If Jeff H would quit being banned from Dago's. All right, there we go. That's probably better. Who's still in here? Who's still in here, guys? Do you see the ticking of the clock behind my head? I'm in the 12 gauge studio. This is where I do all my recordings. Everyone's still in here. That's cool. I didn't realize. I mean, I've read this Heroin Diaries probably twice. I don't know, man. Just reading it between him and Matthew Perry. I don't know who was worse. It seems like when you're on a level of destruction, you don't notice anything or anyone around you. You're just balls to the wall, so to speak. Balls to the wall. I think I'm gonna call it a night, guys and gals. Yeah, but I mean, if you have a chance, go on to YouTube and listen to the album. It's called Heroin Diaries by Sixx a.m. and it goes right along with the book. It's interesting to have the music go along with the book that you're reading because all of a sudden it kind of brings the story out to life. Brings life into the story. My bad. The part about living where I live is so dusty. I go on vacation, I go to the East Coast, man, I have no breathing problems, no dust, no congestion, no nothing. I come home, it's almost like I struggle to breathe every 5 seconds. It's terrible. This place is great for people with tuberculosis, I bet. But anyways, I'm just rambling right now. So I hope you guys are doing excelente. And there is Nikki Sixx right there. I wish I could play a video, but I know that they will freaking copyright me. And I don't want that. So I guess I'm gonna call it a night, guys and gals and puppies and everything else that's been listening. Thank you so much for being here with Gage. Y'all have a wonderful night. And here's the song that I'm gonna leave you with.
Can I be your superhero? Superhero.
Put a 1 if y'all like it.
Away. It's the first time of today. Today. To dream, believe. You are the strength, you're all I need. Oh, gonna give it a shot. Only one of me to shield you all from the enemy. You're a superhero. You're a superhero. Can I be your superhero? Superhero. 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 Can I?
Like I said earlier, can I be your superhero with my big red cape flying through the air? And with that, I'll bid you a good night. Be safe out there.